good. So yeah. So thank you for having me here today. My name is Pamela, and thank you NUS Fintech Society for having me today. I guess what I really wanted to share with you today is really on the topic that really kind of resonates with me, women and careers in crypto. I know crypto is a relatively new space to many of us, but I think it is one in which all of us, or even women, can make their mark in a big way. So before I begin, I would just like to do a poll, trying to understand where we are in terms of the crypto industry, our mindset, and our knowledge in this space. So let me just move to the next slide. I think it's sorry. Next slide. So I guess for those in the Zoom chat, you guys can just put in the chat like two questions here, right? How many of you here are interested in the digital asset space, looking to enter or your next step of career, looking for internship and things like this? And then the next question is, how many of you are actually worried? Like because of what's happening in the market now, you might have initial thought that you could have an opportunity there, but now shifting your thoughts and thinking of looking somewhere else, worried about what's happening in the market, right? So just wanted to have a sense. We can keep it open here, like if you guys want to share, like have any thoughts or raise your hands. Like how many of you guys are interested, like curious, and how many guys are like uncertain or like worried and thinking? So kind of mixed in between, I guess. And in the Zoom, don't think anyone. So
Zoom might take a while.
yeah, Zoom. Oh, I think it's not on the next slide, right? On Zoom. Did we go into Zoom? I think someone has to click on the Zoom to show the next slide.
No, my screen sharing through there.
Oh, okay.
That one's a screen share.
Yeah, but anyway, next slide. Yeah, so I guess what I wanted to share from the poll just now is whether you are excited or worried or unsure, right? I hope that after today's session, you will be kind of able to figure out if this area is something that you could potentially see yourself doing, or even if you are a woman, what are some ways that could help you navigate or stand out among everyone else, right? And some of these skills could be relevant not just for digital assets. I think it really could be applicable throughout your career. So maybe just before I begin, I wanted to just share my career journey with most of you guys here and how did I landed in digital asset, right? So next. So I graduated from SMU in 2014. I was actually in the business school, majoring in finance. Reason why I chose finance was also at that time that seems to be the highest paying job according to all the salary reports that we have. That might have changed now since it's probably tech these days. And I did a summer internship next with Credit Suisse. So before graduation, and then I had a full-time offer with Credit Suisse as part of their graduate program. And I was fortunate when I was at Credit Suisse to have the opportunity to rotate across different functions from back to middle and to front, and even had the opportunity to relocate into Hong Kong to be part of their equities trading desk. So Hong Kong was definitely a memorable part in my career and also on my resume, because comparing Hong Kong and Singapore, Hong Kong is definitely a lot more vibrant, especially when you're doing equities. It's the gateway of China. You get to meet a lot of buy-side funds, long-short equities funds. And in Singapore, it's mostly fixed income, credit kind of macro funds. And there were a lot of Chinese family offices in Singapore. And that's also something that I wanted to learn as part of my career, because we know that China will be a massive growth in this space. And I wanted to build up my business Mandarin skills as well, because in Singapore, you don't really have much opportunity to do that. So really enjoyed my experience in Hong Kong. But I think when I was at Credit Suisse, I think what happened when you are working in such a big bank, it's things kind of move slow and it's pretty much very structured, climbing up the corporate ladder. You kind of have certain levels that you need to hit before reaching the top. So that's where I think another opportunity came up for me to switch into another asset class called FX. And that was how I moved into my next role, which is NUS Group, which is a global fintech company looking at how we disrupt FX being executed in the market, and also how we distribute liquidity across the market. So it's a new innovative way to distribute FX because of whatever happen?
For the participants that's still stuck on slide 1.
Oh, is there a way to? Sorry, guys. Yeah. On Zoom. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that was. It's not a thing actually. Yeah, I think sorry, because I think the slides.
Yeah, this report is not waiting in the way. Nobody know how to bring up the story.
By the way, a lot of activities in the school faster, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
otherwise you have arranged.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
No worries.
Oh, yeah, you said it.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Loading.
Okay. Well, technology, right? What are you gonna do?
Right, so I think I stopped at LMAX, which was my jump from Credit Suisse into a global fintech company, and it was really different, I would say, because working in a smaller scale company, that will be a lot more hands-on, but generally you learn a lot faster. And when I was in I was hired to be part of the Greater China sales team, so I was covering Hong Kong, China, and Taiwan to do electronic FX sales. And that skill set was really useful because that also kind of landed me into my space into digital asset, because LMAX decided to start their new business venture into digital asset, and they needed someone to lead the sales efforts in APAC. So it's a UK headquartered company, and it's an entire new experience for me to build the business from scratch, a new market and a new region. So I took on the opportunity at that point of time, because I also want to move myself back to Singapore, because Hong Kong was kind of messy with all the protests that was happening. And it was also during COVID, and that was in 2020. So quite a bad timing when you have to build a new market and a new product. But I just had to make it happen, and I will just share some tips on how did I make it happen. Then how did I end up at Talos? It was pretty interesting because I was coming back from maternity leave at that time. So I had a COVID baby, he's 18 months old now. And then one of my prospect that I know at LMAX, he actually asked me if I wanted to be part of Talos. So he wanted to bring Talos from US into Singapore, into the untapped client segments in this region. So also a bit more about Talos and who we are. We are a very fast growing US institutional grade B2B digital asset trading infrastructure, catering to just institutional clients. So our client types, mainly they are buy-side clients, your hedge funds, asset managers, banks, as well as brokerages. So I was the second hire at that point of time to lead the sales and growth in this region. So despite Talos being just 4 years old, I think we've received a lot of great achievements over the past year, including raising 105 million in our Series B funding. We attained unicorn status last year. We are now 120 pack strong globally, and we have already 15 people in Singapore. So that's over a year. So that's really exciting. Next slide. I think sorry. Yeah. Sorry. And the next slide is actually quite cool because the outside photo that I want to show. Oh, do you want the next one? I think the next slide, okay, that's fine. Yeah, so I guess yeah, so this might be the wrong. No, sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry. Or maybe I'll just find the rest. I'll just continue. Yeah, the road. So,
Let's just get rid of the slides.
Huh?
That is easier to do this stuff.
yeah, we just do the five ones that I want to share about. Yeah. So, the next slide. So I think the next thing I want to share is really 5 key points that you guys can take away. I think 5 action points that also personally what I learned from the hard way, going through different parts of career ups and downs and things that worked for me and things that didn't, right? So first of it is number 1 is next slide. Networking starts now. I think that's something that I learned really right after university, and it's also influenced from the peers that surround me, right? I think there's a lot of ways to network, but one way to really do it well is really how do you keep it going? Because you can just ask someone for intro during that event itself, but how do you continue that conversation, right? Even after the event itself, because that person has to make an impression of you, right? So generally, the next step probably might or might not work depending who you are interacting with, but reaching out on LinkedIn, asking someone out for coffees and things like this, rejections is fine, I think, but I think in university you have different clubs that gives you accessibility to do so, and there's also networking events, alumni networking events. I think alumni networking events generally could be a good one because alumni themselves, they would have experienced what most of you guys have gone through, so they kind of know what you are thinking in your shoes, and they will more than be willing to help if you also let them know what you are looking for and what you are trying to understand for every coffee meeting that you are trying to set up with them. I think that would be really useful also. And even after you graduate from school, you also need to think about next step in your career. How do you network, right? And for myself as a woman, I think we can leverage on a lot of women networks and communities. So one of the association I've been actively involved is Young Women Leaders Connection. So that's really where when I started my career, I joined that because you meet a lot of like-minded individuals and they have really good mentorship programs that help me throughout my career. So that's one part of it. And I think even at work, there's also women networks and different interest groups that you can also meet people. And this can range from junior to mid-level associates to senior managing directors. And all these people you wouldn't really know when you might need the help, but generally just be open-minded, share with them, really be authentic, learn what they are doing, and sometimes they might just like you and make an impression. You never know, right? And last but not least, on the crypto part of things, I think that's where we build our networks and learn through associations. So like the Singapore Blockchain Association or the Singapore Fintech Association that I see is one of the partners for today's event. I think these are very, very good avenues because they always have webinars very targeted to fintech industries that you might be interested in, and they also have networking events. And I think if you are a student, being a member is a lot cheaper than a full corporate membership. So I think you can leverage on that and really just network. I think that's really runs throughout your career. Secondly, is I would say finding good mentors and role models. I think that was a very big thing that I learned. I think at every stage of my career that you see, right, whether it's moving into a new asset class, I tried equities, I did FX, and I did crypto, right? And moving from a bank into a fintech, I always had really good advice from mentors. And the beauty of mentors is they don't actually tell you what to do, right? They ask questions and they guide you into making a decision. So they are like a sounding board. They will ask questions, they will challenge your viewpoints. it might be something that they disagree with, but they will just share with you their life experiences because they have done that, they know that, and they will give you like maybe the other side of things, and then you evaluate yourself. So mentorship programs really help me in that way. And different ways that you can do mentorship programs, I think internally and externally. At organization, or maybe next time when you graduate at work, generally they have mentorship programs, or different networks, they might have their own mentorship programs that you can be part of. And one thing to note is you don't have one mentor that branch throughout your entire career. Like for myself, I have different mentors at different stages of my career. So my first mentor was right after I graduated from B school, because YWRC has a really good mentorship program where they actually match you with some of the women leaders in different industries, whether it's public or private sector. So my second mentor was actually during my pregnancy. So my first mentor at graduation, I think the problems that you have would be very different when you are in mid-stage career of life. That will be mostly on how do you make an impression at work, how do you climb the corporate ladder, how do you network and things like this. But I think the second part, my second mentor was more on really how do I balance work life, how do I nail my next promotion and things like this, which you will figure out your priorities as you move down your career. Right, so that was what I found really helpful. The third point I have was never say never. I added that because also your first job or the first field you enter will not determine what you will do for the rest of your lives. Because I never thought that I would end up in fintech or working for a smaller scale company after being in an investment bank. I think there's always risks in whatever career step that you decide to take, but there's also pros to it if you are generally optimistic and positive in whatever decision that you choose to take in your career. So despite working in a smaller company, I think as I mentioned just now, you really learn a lot quicker, you get more hands-on, and you can climb the corporate ladder a lot faster if it's a good company with a good product that you believe in, and it scales a lot faster. And secondly is age or gender should never be a factor. So for myself, being one of the youngest in the company, I think you will always get questions about if so-and-so is capable, and they might compare you with people around you, but that's fine. I think just be firm and make sure you know your stuff. When I first moved into crypto, it was really hard to find help 4 years ago because the industry was just so new. And there wasn't associations or webinars to help you get started. And the only way for me to learn was really to network and ask people for help. So I took a lot of online courses myself to really understand blockchain, things like this. And that really helped me to have that kickstart that maybe a lot of people didn't get that privilege to. And third point would be women can be good in tech and also in leadership roles. I think I added these 2 points because being good in tech plus being a leader in tech, I think there's always this stereotype that it's difficult, right? And I think this stereotype comes because also women generally has a fear in engaging new technology. So what's more, you have to build your entire career onto tech. For someone like myself, especially when my background is not in tech, it's mostly in business and trading, management and things like this. So I think one thing for us is really if we set our mind and heart to really do it and be passionate in the use cases and the impact we are bringing, especially in crypto or in blockchain or in a lot of Web3 use cases, I think that will really help you to drive your career goals in the right direction. I think very often for myself, when I'm in a board meeting, I might be the only woman on the table and then the rest are males. But I think what I want is because I know my stuff and I really set my heart to it, and I always make sure that I sit on the table. Meaning that even though there might be 5 seats on the table and women tend to sit by the side and let the men sit on the table, but just sit on the table, ask questions. It doesn't have to be always asking questions to show that you are trying to prove something, but you can be the one waiting at the end just to wrap up everyone's viewpoints and things like that, because this might be something that people leave out at the end, and different ways that you can contribute. I think people will always value that. Yeah. The fourth point I have is, I can't remember what's. Yeah, hard work is key. I think whatever you learn throughout your career is very important, even though how meaningless a task may look like. So for myself, I added that in also because when I rotate from functions in my graduated program, I actually step from back office into middle office and eventually into front office, right? And even whatever that I've learned when I was doing operations, I think was still very relevant today, because when I speak to some of the operation folks at Talos, I kind of understand the pain they have to go through when it comes to running processes, running operations, reconciliations, and things like this. And even when I was in on the trading desk, you interact a lot with such people when you kind of will be able to evaluate in that way. So I think whatever that you learn throughout your career, you do need to insert some positivity and making sure that you get the best out of it, rather than just thinking that, oh, it's just another boring entry or report that I have to write for my boss and things like this. Next is really be active and ask a lot of questions. Sorry, still the old slide. I think one thing that I learned is, as I show you my career journey, right, I think I talk about a lot of opportunities, but the question is, how did I land all these opportunities, right? Is it someone headhunted, someone referred? Actually, it's really through networks, and really some of it is I asked and actively asked for it. So one example was I wanted to move back from Hong Kong to Singapore, and there wasn't a role that was actively promoted or actively shown out there in the internal mobility board. I think my ex-hiring manager was actually planned to extend that offer to an external hire until I came and I asked him and I told him that, hey, I'm actually looking out for a role to move back to Singapore. And he said, why not consider me for this role, right? And then I went through the interview process, and that's how I got it. So never ask, you never know, it might just happen. And my current role, in fact, was from my current boss was like an ex-prospect in LMAX as well. That at that time, because it was COVID, I had to build the entire business, and it was really difficult because there was no physical conference that you can go for. It was all virtual conferences, and as far as you know, everyone thought sales is a very glamorous job, right? Everyone wants to be in sales, but nobody knows how hard it can be, because when COVID hit, I was tasked to expand APAC, and I had to do like cold calls because you can't meet anybody. And I gave myself like 100 list of people I have to meet and talk to it on LinkedIn. And it can be hits and misses, rejects. I just treat like, oh, maybe I could learn something from them, ask them out for coffee, ask for a Zoom meeting. It might be a prospect, it might be a client later, or maybe it might just turn out to be a friend. But somehow it did work out, and it's a lot of hard work, I guess, yeah, that to make all of this really happen. The fifth point I have is really do your best and trust yourself. It's okay to make mistakes. I think making a mistake, learn from it and move forward. Like for myself, I do have to juggle multiple roles. Being a mom, being a daughter, being a sister, I think what I've learned throughout the years that you can never be perfect in whatever role that you are doing, but more importantly is to be present. And to be present, I mean, if you have dinners, just try to switch off from work. If there's a birthday occasion, you are celebrating someone's birthday, like grandparents' birthday, it's okay to switch off from work, because all these memorable occasions are very important and you don't know when next time you have it. So be present, try to enjoy the moment. And also, I think the last point is really find people that trust in you more, also that you trust yourself. I think finding good sponsors, whether you are in your career or whether outside of your career, people that believe in you, that gives you the opportunity. And when that opportunity is given to you, I think we should always learn to embrace it and try to make the best out of it. Yeah, because some of these opportunities actually don't come easy. Yeah. Next. So here are just some tips on really how to get started if we are looking to move into crypto. some questions that you might want to ask yourself is, number one is, do you believe in the potential of blockchain? What are some of the skills that you have that others don't? Like maybe for universities right now, you do have cryptography courses, that blockchain courses that maybe some of us might not have the chance to take it, right, in uni. So you might stand an edge to other people. And then last is, are you willing to work in a small startup, right? I think there's always risk. And in a bigger company, in my personal opinion, I feel like working in a big company kind of give you that fundamentals. If you are someone that want to learn some of the hard skills first, more so than the soft skills, I think companies like that, they actually give you that fundamentals to really grow. And also, if you think about compensation wise, generally bigger companies can afford to pay a lot more than in startup. So that's on the pro side, but on the con side, I think that's where you need to balance up with small startups, because you really learn a lot faster, right? And you might have the equity stake, and that could mean unlimited upside as well. So you do have to balance that up. And I think that's the last slide. And ways that you can get started, I think pretty straightforward. Start from internships. Most universities have career portals that you guys can get access to source for internships, and that's a good way to start to see really if you are interested in this field. Speak to seniors or alumni. They have done it. They will be able to tell you what are some of the struggles they had, what are some ways, or maybe even offering you internship opportunities or full-time offers, you never know. And then look out for companies offering for graduate programs. I guess this might be more applicable to bigger companies or bigger fintech firms, because in general, companies like us, for example, it's very specialized. We tend to only hire very senior people, also because smaller startups, or not really startups, but maybe more specialized field or more technical expertise, they kind of don't really have time to train people up when it's fresh grads. So generally they hire more specialized people, but as they scale, they expand, then they might have graduate programs as well in the future. So I think that's all from me. So happy to take any questions that you guys might have. And just keep it casual.
I thought you were asking to keep the question. So, thank you for sharing. It's a very sincere sharing. So I have several questions that I would like to ask. So if you feel comfortable sharing, so please do so. But if you feel like this is actually my first question is, because you started in the traditional trading field, right?
Yeah.
So what's the biggest difference that you find between the two, like the digital asset trading as well as non-digital asset trading? And what's the difference?
Go. You can continue this again.
The difference of your work.
I think work-wise, generally it's the same, because the trading knowledge is the same, right? Because not getting too technical, but most of them, when they trade, they use algos and things like this. So they will use the same kind of algos to run same strategy for crypto. So that's probably the same. I would say the difference is it's more on a lot more groundwork I have to do, because the set of clients that I speak to might be the same, right? It might be the same hedge funds, the same family offices, but they might not understand crypto as well. So that's why the groundwork you have to do, number one is you really have to explain to them the market structure of crypto. Why is it so different from trading equities or FX? And why is the reason we can help you to solve, and why is the reason you can use us? So the groundwork is a lot more different, and that's something that I have to learn, which is the education piece. Second thing was that brand name, right? Especially when you do sales, you say that you are from blah 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 bank. Generally, people know that you are reputable, you are credible, and things like this. And then if you are tell someone that you're from a smaller fintech firm, they might not have heard the name before. So you kind of need to explain that we are invested by who are our founders, what's my background, what's my founder's background, what's my team's background. You probably wouldn't have to do that a lot more in working for a bank to sell, because the branding kind of sells for itself. But working for a smaller company, I think that's where you have to put a lot more hard work into getting their brand name known to other people. You probably have to do a lot of marketing as well to really sell. That's only shop. Yeah, she's doing a great job. Yeah. Or do you have anything to add?
What, on marketing
Anything
and
like
branding?
impression, yeah. It's difficult.
I guess part of it is that reputation is everything, especially in our business. Because there are unfortunately bad actors out there, and you don't want one brush to tar everybody else. So it sometimes feels like twice the amount of effort for the same amount of reward that, like, say, your Citibanks or your Deutsches or your whoever else will get. So it really is the entire team pulling together. And at Telos, we're very lucky in the sense that we have a very talented team who has a lot of experience in TradFi and capital markets. So these people already come with like their own reputations intact, and that's how we build from there. I think that's the first step. And every day is a new learning experience in crypto, and every day is a new journey. And I think, especially you guys are probably more than a little bit familiar with fintech and crypto, considering that you're here. So you guys know that the market can change on a dime as well. So yeah.
And it's also kind of rewarding, right? Because in some way you are kind of changing the way that something is being traded. Just an example, what you are seeing crypto trading infrastructure now, it was like 20 years ago in FX, where nothing is electronified, everything is being done over phone call. Like if I want to give you a quote, or I want to trade a certain block trading, I will quote you a spread, everything I call you over a phone, right? But now in FX, everything is like a Bloomberg terminal, right? You have your streaming quotes and everything, and then you can place a trade, and then you get executed, and then the prices will just confirm back, right? And that's the standard we want for crypto, but no one is doing this out there in the market, and that's also that problem we are trying to solve. So it's like building a baby yourself, right? Trying to make sure that people know that this is the future, which they probably know if they come from FX and they have been there long ago. They can see that this is going to be the future. They understand. And then if they understand, then how do they believe in you? Believe that you know your stuff, I should put my money with you, and things like this.
Yeah, I have another question.
Yeah, sure.
So actually, I just received a internship offer to join a commodity trading team at an energy company. So I'll be doing commodity trading in this summer. But I'm also very passionate about exploring more about crypto trading. So do you have any advice for me, like specifically from how do I start from commodity trading, but also learn more about crypto trading?
Which year are you in?
Year 2.
No, year 2. Oh, you still have like that year and all. Yeah. So I think number one is it's pretty much, I mean, that trading knowledge you have in the commodities house, part of it, I think, will still be applicable to crypto. In fact, we see a lot of crypto traders coming from commodities backgrounds as well. So I don't think there's too much difference in that. I think one similarity between commodities and crypto is also that physical settlement piece. Because commodities, I'm not sure which part of commodities you are, but they have that physical settlement kind of concept behind it, and that's about the same as crypto, but it's just that it's more of invisible. Yeah, it's like a digital settlement kind of piece. So that market structure somehow people kind of understand throughout from commodities and crypto. And if you think about it, I mean, when it comes to trading, you can always trade on your own personal capacity, right? More so than on an internship. I mean, if you really want to trade, just you might just put a small sum, just test it out, or you have a small algo that you want to test it out. I think generally most of the exchanges, the minimums are very low. So if you want to trade, you can just test it out and see how it goes. Or if you are worried, you still have year 3, right? So you could get another internship more related to crypto trading. But I think most of the crypto trading firms generally would hire people from TradFi anyway. So I don't think you specifically need that crypto trading experience in order to be part of the crypto trading space as well.
So just a quick follow-up, so what are they looking out for when they hire like fresh grad for crypto trading? Like, does the criteria differ from the like commodity trading?
I think it differs firm by firm, but I guess speaking to friends that hire like junior traders, I think generally they don't expect them to really know the intricacies of trading. But what they are looking for is people that understand concepts fast enough, very adaptable. And then when I tell you like a certain structure or like a certain way I want to execute a trade, you kind of know and understand and internalize it, and then you can execute on your side, right? So I think knowing that financial background and that knowledge, I think is more important than your understand how you understand stuff is a lot more important than really your looking at your trading P&L and things like this, or portfolios and things like this. Yeah, generally this happens for the more junior kind of roles, because they will always be there to guide you, right? It's like whatever trades you input, they will have to check anyway, because they won't just let you submit like a big order and then let it hit the market, right? They will check and things like this. So they will just make sure that you execute within their parameters. Yeah, no worries.
Perfect.
What's your most enjoyable part of your current job? Most working with poetry.
Kidding.
Yeah, I guess most enjoyable. I think it's a lot of moments, I guess. I think one thing that I really like, which I didn't get as well in part of my other career, is also how close-knitted and homely the entire culture feels like, because it's not like everyone is just doing my own things and hitting my own KPIs. Everyone is more like helping each other to really achieve what you want, and everyone is just so open. I think it's not just in the Singapore team. I think this culture is displayed even in our US, in our London team, where anytime, maybe now it's 7 p.m, maybe US is 6 a.m. If I send them a Zoom call meeting now, they would actually dial in and really help me if I have an urgent issue to resolve. Right. So I think that's something that it's difficult to find in a big company, but at the same time, it's also very difficult to preserve this culture if you are looking to scale. Right, because every hire that you want to extend your offer to, it actually goes through a rigorous process of interviews and things like this. And I always tell myself that interviews, even though how many interviews you have to go through, is actually a training for yourself, because every interviewer asks you a different question. Right, and even though you might have to repeat yourself, tell me more about yourself like 10 times for every interview, but it's somehow you get better at every interview, right? So I think interview is also a way to really treat it as a practice, and then you learn from all these interviews that you have to go through. Yeah. Thanks for the question.
I'm also learning from rejection, right?
Yeah.
That's the other part of it. Do you guys remember me? Oh, good. I guess what are you guys, I mean, a lot of you raised your hands about being worried about the markets right now. I'm worried about crypto. Like, what are you guys worried about? Like, what are some of your concerns?
Currently, it seems more like the crypto trend is declining since the collapse of FTX. And many people are like getting out of the space somehow. I feel so that's kind of worry. I feel like the longer the market may not be as big as right now. I think.
Yeah, I think there's two sides you can see it. For sure. I think we saw that volumes were pretty much impacted in terms of people withdrawing from the market. But it also depends on whether you are coming in as a perspective of a retail investor or whether you are coming in as a perspective of an institutional investor, right? Because whatever that SBF you see, a lot of impact is actually on retail piece, and that's natural because crypto started out from retail, right? And a lot of news that you see are always on Twitter, and that's how that retail fear get perpetuated throughout this ecosystem, right? But then coming from the institutional point of view, which we are kind of facing almost day to day, they still think there's a huge potential growth in the institutional area. I think one reason as well is portfolio diversification, right? Because I have 100% of my assets. I already have like 30% in equities, maybe 30% in FX, 30% in fixed income. I needed 10%. Maybe I could just allocate maybe 5% in crypto, right? And 5% out of $1 billion is actually quite significant, right? For crypto players, looking at how small or how little market players are in this space, right? And if you are definitely one of the market leader, generally you can capture a lot of this market share. So institutions, we see is they already have teams for crypto. I think we saw news that they are already planning to do crypto. So I don't think that would change. What might change it is probably it might be slower in terms of the intake, but it will be there to stay for sure. It's just that it might be slower, and then people just wait and see to see how it goes and things like this. Yeah.
What about regulation?
Yeah, good point for sure. I think whatever that happened, we ourselves, we are very pro regulation, right? And we kind of want more regulation because that's also the way more trading firms would want to come in and more TradFi firms would want to come in, right? And for if you are a lawyer, for example, now you would probably be very popular in terms of within this legal and regulatory space within crypto, because it's really hard to find people that have expertise in this area. I guess it's same for whether it's trading or other sectors, right? It's always hard to find people that have expertise in crypto or digital assets. So that's something that people can leverage on if they start early. And I think regulations right now, what's happening is it's just so segmented across different countries, right? Even Singapore ourselves, we don't really have a clear regulatory perspective for crypto. I think it has been ongoing for about 3 years. Some of the better firms got it, but there are still some firms that wait 2 to 3 years before they can get that license, and that also means that they can't start operating properly also, right? And a lot of them actually moving to Hong Kong as well.
But it's kind of system contradictory with currencies such as US dollar.
Do you want to elaborate more on your question?
I think crypto ecosystem is such a shock contradictory with currencies.
Contradictory with currency. In what aspect do you mean that is contradictory?
Maybe will cause some economic shocks.
Yeah, I guess on that concerns part, right? Like I guess that comes to what crypto is about, right? Whether it's a decentralized currency and whether it's a fiat. I think normal economic policy or currency is all about a central body where when you control the supply and demand of how much capital flow you have in the market. And you are saying that maybe crypto, no, there's no central bank to control like what's circulating in the money supply. So that might cause fluctuations in the currency and things like this. Yeah, I think there's a lot that is being done to try to solve all of this. I think one is when it comes to crypto, people are worried about AML, money laundering, fraud, because you never know where the money is from, right? Because in the currency aspect, it always comes from central bank and there's a bank account, so you can trust who sends the money out and things like this, right? In crypto, it's all wallet addresses that you move from one wallet to another wallet and things like this. So I think there are solutions providers out there that's solving all of this, where they have a database of wallets that are blacklisted wallets that are used for terrorist financing and things like this. So whenever if you are licensed by a regulator, they would expect that all of these coins that you are receiving, you have to scan through all of these database so that it's not being flagged out as illicit offerings and illicit like transactions and things like this. So there are a lot of solutions out there to actually solve these problems these days. Yeah, it keeps evolving, I think, because of the regulations, and with regulations, I think they will come with a lot of new frameworks to actually meet the demands of the regulators. Yeah,
it is also a very self-regulated industry as well, in the sense that I think people who work in crypto are dedicated to ensuring that crypto succeeds. And so there are like a lot of different associations, including, you know, the Blockchain Association of Singapore and women's associations that form working groups to work with regulators and are constantly in dialogue with companies in the ecosystem. Like we have conversations ongoing with regulators as well, because the only way that we're going to be able to thrive as an industry is by setting up these safeguards and weeding out bad actors. And I think because it's currently a bear market, you will see that a lot of scam coins and bad actors get weeded out as a result as well. Yeah. So any last? Okay. I think we have one last final question, which is basically how are women making an impact in the digital assets industry? We'll just end off with that one.
How women can we get? I guess in general, there's not a lot of women in this space, especially in the institutional trading piece, right? I mean, in general, even in finance, even on the sales and trading side, we don't see a lot of women. But I think women, in a way, what we can do is really support other women by making that awareness being known, meaning that if you are extending an offer, you are interviewing a pool of candidates, if you have a woman in the interview that is equally good as a man, right? Side by side, apples to apples, right? Then maybe in terms of gender diversity, in the trading desk, maybe we could extend more offers to women. I think that's what some banks are actually trying to balance up in terms of equality between men and women, especially not just on the trading floor, on the tech space as well. It's also very difficult to find women engineers, right? So I think that's a way to really balance the equality. Not saying men is not any good, because there's some no men here, but I guess it's really that balance and the difference in the viewpoints and things like this that just be aware, right? And yeah.
And also, men, thank you for supporting women.
Yeah, I think that's also a good point, right? That you brought up, like supporting women. I mean, if you have a male boss, for example, more and more so you realize that they now understand why you need to take time off to really drop off your kids if your kids are sick, and then you need to take like childcare leave and all. They understand. You'll be like, oh, it's okay to have to come to office. It's okay to work from home, take your meetings over Zoom. I think men themselves, they also understand that differences. Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you guys so much for coming. We really appreciate it. You can follow us on LinkedIn. We're all very active on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you guys have any other further questions, asking us, we thank you for this discussion was under Chatham House rules. So thank you guys so much for Yeah. You want to say thank you as well?
Yeah. Thanks for having us. And then, yeah, if you have any questions, just reach out to us.
Thank you so much for sharing. Actually, we have a lot of appreciate the article.
Oh, okay.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks for coming back. It's well.
No, no, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, yeah, take it out. Take it.
3, 2, 1. Okay, can I get like everyone more?
Yeah, for you, so.
Oh, you don't need, it's okay. Wait.
No, because.
Oh, thank you.
What a moment, yeah, don't take it before.
Thank you. I think we can stop sharing the screen.
Bye.